Alrighty, guys, my name is Eric. I'm with Keller Williams Tampa Central. I'm going to go over today some things in Command. So today is the DocuSign 101 course. We're going to be, of course, logged into Command at agent.kw.com, and we're going to work our way through what would be entering in a contact, creating an opportunity, as well as going into DocuSign, making sure that you have access to all the paperwork or the contracts, and that you can submit for compliance, as well as send things off to your clients for signature. So I will send some documents for signature today, as well as explain some of the differences or features that are within the DocuSign platform. So of course, step number one is going to be to log into your Command. And again, that's agent.kw.com is the website. So this is where I am now. I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And while this loads, of course, this is going to be the homepage of Command. We're going to make sure that DocuSign is connected to your Command so that you have access to all of the documents once you create the opportunity. This step's very important because you want to make sure that you create the opportunity before you go into DocuSign and do any paperwork, because that's going to ensure that you're able to submit everything for compliance, as well as it will bring over all of your clients' information, which you would have had to enter into your CRM, your contacts database here. So we're going to go ahead and click on our names on the right-hand side, and we're going to go down to settings. All right, so here, think of these applications like the ones on your phone. These are individual applications that you can download by going to the marketplace right here. Of course, if you had your profile set up by Scott Leroy Marketing, your DocuSign application will already be here. Dotloop is just here because at one point we did use Dotloop, but right now we're only using DocuSign. If you have an upgraded Dotloop account that you wanted to use with Command, of course, the interaction piece will be the same. But as far as what's included with the Office, it is DocuSign Rooms, which is the free KW platform. And in this case, you can see here that you're connected. So if you're not connected here, I'm more than happy to look at that for you, or get Scott Lord to look at it for you. Just send me an email at mctt738@kw.com, and I'll go ahead and get you connected. But this is where you want to make sure that DocuSign is connected. And we're going to go ahead and click the home button over here. The KW on the left-hand side will expand your menu. That way you can see what all these little icons mean. Today, we're going to be working in the Contacts app as well as the opportunities. Of course, to create our opportunity. What's an opportunity? If you don't know, if you're newer to the office, it's an opportunity for income. It's an opportunity to have a closing. So that's pretty much what it is. You can plug in your contacts in the pipeline. So if you're working with 3 leads and you wanted to plug in their specific budgets within the opportunities applet, you can go in there and track all of that in live time. Your potential income, for instance, it'll give you a guesstimate and things like that. In today's class, I'm not going to cover all of those features. I do have a class that just covers the opportunity features on our YouTube channel. So if you were to go to YouTube on your browser, you can go to YouTube and just search Keller Williams Tampa Central. Our YouTube channel will pop up, and every class that I have, including this one, makes its way over to our YouTube channel so that you can watch it on your schedule. And you can kind of go through that there. But here's the Opportunities 101 course where I cover all of the opportunity features and details. So we're going to go in here to DocuSign, into Command. We're going to add a contact in, and we're then going to create an opportunity, and then we're going to cover the features of DocuSign once again. So I'm going to click on Contacts. There are a ton of features that you can do within Contacts application here. In today's example, I'm just going to plug in 2 contacts as an example for today. They're going to be buyers for this example, or maybe sellers, decide when I add them. But we're going to go through and add our contacts. You can, of course, add more than 1 contact at a time here, filter. You can search your tags. Again, if you go to our YouTube channel, there's a database management class that covers this section in more detail. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on Add Contact. And I'm going to add my test contact for today. And that test contact is going to be start. The only thing that is required for you to add a contact here will be a first name in general. However, to send paperwork to your clients, you're going to want to at least capture the email address, because this will filter, this will make its way over to DocuSign for you to send the paperwork. All the other information, of course, is important, but not required for you to complete this transaction. So I'm going to go in here and enter an email address. I don't have this email address in here already. I'll show you guys what this looks like at the end of class. So again, this information is important. You can add your contacts to the pipeline and track your sales all the way from the beginning to the very end, which will be a closing. But in today's class, I'm not going to cover any of these features. I'm going to go ahead and cover one more thing here. So for Ned, I'm going to add a spouse. So if you are dealing with more than one seller or more than one buyer, or just family members in general, or people that are working a transaction together for one reason or another, you can click on add relationship, and you can go ahead and you can see here that there's a ton of relationships to pick from. You know, daughter, brother, sister, sibling, child, whatever the case is. There's even another option down here if those don't fit the category. But for this example, I'm going to do spouse, and I'm going to do start. Of course, you can add this person here to add the relationship. Ideally, you're going to want to add these individuals separately, because right now you're adding Ned's email, but you're not going to be able to add Caitlin's email. You're going to have to look her up separately to add an email address. Okay, so we're going to go here and we're going to click add. That creates the relationship, at least to link them. And then we're going to go over here to her and add an email address so that we can use that for our paperwork. So I'm going to hit create. Ned is in there. Now let's look for Lynn. See if she pops up here. There she is. Just going to add a quick email address. The way that you can do this is by clicking the little pencil here. And I'm just going to add an email address so we can use that for our examples today. Of course, every user has to have their own email address if they're going to sign paperwork via DocuSign. So now we've added that email. We're going to click save. So there's that. And now we're going to go back and use Ned. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you know who Ned Stark is. We're going to go ahead and click on Ned. And I like to create the opportunities over here under opportunities, simply because you can then see if you've created any other opportunities for that individual, or if you maybe hadn't created and you didn't remember. You can, of course, create opportunities under the opportunities applet. The only thing is you'll have to look for the contact name once you click create opportunity. Okay. So I'm going to click create opportunity over here. It's going to pop up your box. I'm going to go over the required fields here. Of course, this is taking me a little bit longer because I am explaining each field here that is going to be required. But you can start an opportunity once you enter in the contact within like 30 seconds. So of course, your market center, if you're out of more than one Keller Williams office, you have more options here, of course. But for us here at Tampa Central, you should see Tampa Central here. If you're on a team, you'll see your team name here. I'll explain the team feature in a second. And then we're going to keep going here. So for this example, I am going to use listing. They're listing their home for sale. The owner, this is a little bit confusing. The owner is not the owner of the property, but the owner of the opportunity, which of course would be yourself, the agent. And then you have the client. So it defaults it to Ned Stark because I am in Ned Stark's contact. As far as the co-seller, you can go ahead and click here and you can search for his wife. So here we go, and there she is. And then this is going to default the opportunity name. This is going to default to the first contact's name and the type of the opportunity. We're going to ask you to enter in the property address that you're dealing with. So that way, if any letters or correspondence comes in for this specific property, the office will be able to find your opportunity quickly. Well, it'll be easier for us to find the opportunity by the address than it would be your client's name, because you are the person who knows your client. The office doesn't necessarily know your client. As far as estimated closing date, I would go ahead and plug this in. We're going to go ahead and put it for next month at the end of the month. This isn't a required field, but this will bleed over into your contract once you're filling it out. So it does save you some time in the long run. The estimated listing price is also not a required field, but if you plug it in there, it will also plug that into your contract once you're at that phase. Here on the commission rate, of course, everything's negotiable in real estate. It's typically 2.5 to 3%, depending on the transaction. For this transaction, I'm just going to put 3%. And then these two fields here are how you move this opportunity via the pipeline. So the pipeline does look like this, and there's 3 categories: listing, buyer, and leases. And the opportunity would literally move from one phase to the other. You can literally click and drag once you're in this pipeline, or you can just update the fields here and we'll move it as well. For this case, we're saying they're an active client and we are in the process of, let's leave it under staging because it's a listing. And we're going to go ahead and click create. Before I click create, I'm going to cover one more thing for teams specifically. So if you're not on a team, this doesn't pertain to you, you can ignore me for 30 or a minute, and then we'll go back to creating an opportunity. If you're on a team, depending on your team structure, your rainmaker, the person who runs your team, may want you to do things out of the team portal. The reason is because then you guys can work on things together and everyone can see what's going on with that specific transaction. If you don't do this and you don't select the team here, only you will be able to see this opportunity. And if you have more than one person working on the transaction, for instance, or the team just wants to know what's going on, that's not going to work. So if you go in here and you select the team, for instance, you have to go in here and plug in everything the same. You can add other members of the team on here that are working with you on this specific transaction. The contacts will have to be in the team profile as well. So now that I have this other tab here, I'm going to explain the contact piece. So if I'm going to go to my contacts and my personal profile, the way that you toggle back and forth is by clicking on your name, and you can just literally click on one profile or the other. Here's the team profile that I have as an example. I'm going to look up Ned. And there's Ned. You can simply just go here, select bulk action. Once you select more than one contact, go all the way to the bottom, and you can change account. And then you can move that over to the team profile. And if you do that with Ned and Catlin, you'll be able to then add them here under the client and co-seller for this team opportunity. In this case, I'm not going to continue on with the team opportunity. It's going to be myself. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to search for Ned. Type in the last name, hopefully it pops up. Start, Catlin start. So then I hope that makes sense. Now we're going back and working our way through the opportunity. So if you were not listening to me the last minute or two, now it's a good time to listen to me now. So I'm going to go on with my steps. I've covered all the required fields, and now we're just going to go ahead and click create opportunity. Create opportunity. So now Net Start, who is my test contact for today, has one opportunity listed under opportunities here. If you were to look up his wife, the other person will also have an opportunity under their name. For today's example, I created it under the opportunity under the contact card, but of course you can create it under opportunities as well. Like I mentioned before, one of the benefits is being able to see how many opportunities a specific contact has, because things will get confusing once you get into the rhythm of creating more than one opportunity and working with multiple people at a time. So I'm going to continue on now. I'm going to click on the opportunity name. And I like to say at this point of the class that we have 3 tabs that are important here. All the tabs are important, but there are 3 that are specific and that are going to benefit you if you do this correctly. It's the details tab, the documents tab, and eventually where we want to all be is the offers and commission tab, which means you actually have a closing coming up and you're going to get paid. So that's a great place to be, of course. So this is the details tab. It's got all the information that we've already plugged in here. If you wanted to edit this information or update it or add more info, you can simply just click the pencil right here and it will allow you to edit everything as you need to. I asked you at the beginning to always add the property address to the opportunity name here, which you can see it's 123 Main Street. I'm going to add it also under property for the opportunity. US. I always use 123 Main Street. Believe it or not, there is one in Florida. So I'm just going to use this first one that pops up. There's a couple in Florida, actually. So there you go. Now I'm going to save. And now the opportunity addresses of the property address is also here under the opportunity details, which will also push this over to our contract once we get to that point. All the information here that's relevant to the contract in the paperwork, including your contact's name and email address, will make its way over to DocuSign, which is where we want it to be. The next thing we're going to do here is we're going to click on documents. But real quick, I'll mention offers and commissions. I'm not going to cover that in today's class, but I do have a class on our YouTube channel on how to get paid when it comes to offers and commissions. Okay. We're going to click on documents. The document section is where all of your documents are going to be submitted for compliance. So there are 2 platforms that you're going to be working out of when you're creating an opportunity or having to put paperwork together for a client. Command is where you're going to put things together and is where you work with the office with your transaction. DocuSign is where you work with your clients specifically to get paperwork and to get it executed and signed. So that's how that works. So now that you are here under the Documents tab, you can click on Pick a Checklist, and the office has categorized specific type of transactions that you guys may be involved in. 9 out of 10 times, you're always going to be residential, but as you can see here, there are other options here that you can choose if the category fits. Okay, for today's example, I'm just going to choose residential, and you're going to see that my contract folders are going to appear on the left-hand side. One thing to take note here is the listed, under contract, and closed folders is where your paperwork goes. These are the only folders you're able to submit for compliance. When I say submit for compliance, it means sends the paperwork over to the broker or to myself. So these are the only 3 folders you can do that with. You can create folders under custom folders, but these folders are meant to just house other paperwork that you want to just keep with the transaction, but you don't necessarily want to put with the compliance paperwork. So for instance, any survey paperwork, any extra title paperwork, any blueprints that you may have if it's new construction or if it's a remodel, all that type of paperwork can go under here. You can create as many folders as you like, and you can store your paperwork here. It's a good place to keep it because then it's together all in one place. And of course, this system will always give you access to the paperwork as you're supposed to keep it for several years after closing. So that's how the custom folders work. If you were to put paperwork in the custom folders and you need to change it and upload it over here to the main folders, it will give you an option once you've uploaded paperwork here to just bring it over from, attach from, and it'll give you custom folders once you've created them. Okay, so that's how that works. So as far as today's example, I'm going to focus on the listing side. If you're working with a client and you're fortunate enough to list their home, hopefully they're using you to find a new home as well, if it's their main home. The way that it works is you're going to have 2 opportunities. That means you're going to have an opportunity for the listing paperwork as well as the contract paperwork for that specific client. And then if you're going to work with them on the buying side, you'd create a second opportunity, which is a reason why I like to create them out of the contact card for their buying side. So you're working out of 2 opportunities. Since we're talking about side and this part can get a little confusing, the other thing to mention here, let's say you're working with this client, you've gathered all your paperwork and you're under contract and that contract falls through. You don't have to create a new opportunity for Ned or Kathleen Stark. You simply are going to go under the under contract folder and click under contract, and you can create multiple versions of the under contract folder per contract that you've received. So in theory, if you've gone through 4 contracts and they've all fell through for one reason or another, you'll have a record of those 4 contracts here, including the release and cancellation. So if you ever need to pull up old paperwork and have proof that you have it, that's how it would work. You would have however many times you've been in a contract and however many times you've had a release and cancellation, those should all be documented here. And it's super simple. You click add a version and you can name it whatever you want. And then you'll have an exact replica of this folder, and you'll be able to upload your new paperwork and still keep your old paperwork handy and close when you need it. If you submit for compliance, which means I'm typically, when you have a cancellation and you're under contract, I see that, I approve it. I create the other folder for you and I send you a message. I'll add a message here, use the @ symbol, and I send you a message that says, hey, new contract folder created or what have you. But this is also how you send messages in command. So if you wanted to send messages to Marta or myself, you can just simply use the @ symbol and the whole staff will pop up here. If you were on your account, I would be an option here too, but it's my account, so I can't send myself messages, of course. So that's how you create other contract folders. If your contract falls through, you don't have to create a new opportunity. And then you have your add a comment here, which will help you communicate with the office staff about what may be happening with a specific transaction. I mean, as far as working with multiple buyers or multiple properties, each opportunity belongs to one property. Unless you wanted to work generically or trying to, in this market, it may be difficult to get under contract. So you may have one contract, one opportunity that you're working with, and then you're creating multiple folders until it sticks. But you would have to basically update the property address and the opportunity name for every single one of those potential under contracts, hopefully, or trying to get under contract. Hope that makes sense. So going back to the checklist here, the office has put together everything that's required and giving you examples of what needs to be submitted for you to have a successful and compliant listing as well as a contract. This is true for just a contract opportunity or a listing as well. So the way that it works is these columns work like Excel sheets, so you can actually sort by the headers. So we're going to focus on the listing part of it. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on requirement, and this will sort this specific column by required, conditional, and optional. Some you may think, well, why is some paperwork conditional? Why some is optional? For instance, a conditional paperwork would be a waiver. If the client needs you to hold off for a little bit and not put the property in MLS for one reason or another, not every property is going to have a homeowners association lead-based paint. So those are all optional paperwork depending on the type of property. When you submit your property, when you submit your opportunity for compliance, I will go through and I will tell you, okay, then based on the tax records, XYZ is required. So that's how that works. So these are the required forms. And now we're going to actually fetch them in DocuSign by clicking on Start a Transaction. One of the cool things that I've done is if I can provide you with the required paperwork in DocuSign without making you go search for it, I have done so. Some of the required paperwork that I will not be able to provide you will be is like, the tax records, because I don't know which property you're dealing with at what time. But the KW disclosure will be provided for you, as well as the listing agreement will be provided for you. So let's go ahead and click on Start a Transaction. Click on Start a Transaction. It's giving me the drop down just because I still have Dotloop connected. However, yours, if you just have DocuSign, it's going to go straight to DocuSign. The way that it works is it's going to open up a new tab. And it's going to want you to log in. If you're already logged in, of course, it'll keep you logged in. But I'm going to go ahead and log in under the email that I know that I have associated with my Command account, which was that one. Hit continue. While that loads, there it is. Password for that as well. Log in. So here's what I was saying, that once you hit Start a Transaction in your opportunity, now it says go to the transaction because it's already been started. But once you hit Start a Transaction or go to the transaction, your paperwork will load here for you. This is all of the required paperwork that you're going to have to put together for this specific listing. And then the only thing you would have to fetch is if you needed a lead-based paint. So let's say that this specific one needed a lead-based paint. So you would simply just go in here and you would click Add. And DocuSign Forms is where you're going to get your paperwork from. If it's a lead-based paint, or if you're working on the buyer side and you're getting it off your computer, then of course you would click on the computer. An example on why you would need to use the computer part is you're working on the buying side and you downloaded the form from MLS, and you're going to upload it from your computer, of course. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and click on DocuSign Forms here, and I'm going to add the lead-based paint to this specific transaction. So typically, if you just type in lead, it'll sort through you and we can search. But of course, there are a bunch of groups here and folders you can search for on the left-hand side. So the one that I want here is the CRP lead-based paint. This matches my as-is contract. Depending on which contract you choose to go with for your specific property is which lead-based paint, which HOA, and which form you would use. But we're not going to get into those specifics in today's class. I'm just going to use the lead-based paint for the as-is contract because it is the most popular. And we'll go ahead and hit Add Selected. Now you can see here that I've added my lead-based paint to the rest of my required documents. So that's how that works. So now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click on my listing agreement to make edits. It's super intuitive, super easy to make edits. We're just going to go here and click on the document. And again, any information that you've entered into your command, if you do this, this is the way you need to do it every single time, is add the contact, create the opportunity, and then go to DocuSign. It will bring over all of the information it can from your opportunity. So here's my seller's names. Here's my 10 potential broker name, my property address, as well as on the contract, it will fill in the price. But this is a listing agreement, so we're going to have to type that in. So there is your listed price. Of course, you're going to go through all of these features here. You're not going to see your signature field just yet. Don't panic. Those will load for us, and I'll show you what that looks like. But every time you either make an edit here or you want to do something like all these actions here, you're going to want to hit save. So save and close, just to make sure that everything is saved so that you don't lose any of your work. It can be very frustrating if you're trying to put an offer together or put paperwork together, and you are in your state your changes don't save. So that's how you need to do this for every single document once you're working on it. Now we know that our changes have been saved. There's my purchase price or my listed price. And now that I've saved my document, I have a couple of things that I can do under document actions. I can download this form if your client doesn't want to do technology and they just want to sign it by hand, wet sign. You can go ahead and download it. You can print it from here. You can do all sorts of things. You can also create the envelope from here if you need to. All these options here are something you can do from here directly. Okay, so that's how you do that. We're going to go ahead and click close. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to act like we're sending this to our clients for signature, which means we've gone through all this paperwork, we've filled it out, we're good to go. We're just going to send our paperwork. So even if we go here to the lead-based paint and we click on that, we're going to send both of these documents for signature. And we are going to just make sure that the information is correct. Yep, that's all correct. I would correct any other fields that I would need to correct here, but in this form, it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to go ahead and hit save and close. So I'm going to select my listing agreement and all of my other paperwork that's ready for signature after I've been through it, gone through it, and filled it out. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click the create an envelope. So it's thinking old school. You create an envelope, you put a letter in an envelope, and you send it off wherever it's going. So this is the idea behind that. So we're going to click create envelope. Once this section loads, the envelope name, you can name whatever you'd like. Only you're going to see this section here. Everything else is where your clients are going to see. So one thing here is we're going to add the recipients. Here's the forms that I selected to send as part of this email. I would recommend clicking all of the forms that you want to send at once, preparing them beforehand and then sending them off. I personally think that your clients would get annoyed if you send one document at a time, of course. So you want to prepare the documents, fill them out, and then select them all, and then create the envelope to send those through. As far as the recipient section, you're going to go in here and you're going to select pre-tag rows. The pre-tag rows is how it's going to pre-tag all of the sections your clients need to sign. So pre-tag rows. The cool thing is we have seller 1 and seller 2. Seller 1, since it's bringing it over from command, here's your seller 1 and here's your seller 2. So seller 1 is Ned, seller 2 is Catlin. So here you go. There are now pre-selected. We're going to hit add. If you yourself needed to sign paperwork, so let's say this was the KW disclosure, for instance, and you wanted to just get it signed at the same time, you can go in here and add yourself a pre-tag row. The KW disclosure does have an agent spot, so that is a pre-tag row. As you can see here, the listing broker or listing associate, you can sign the listing agreement as well through here if you need it. If you were going to sign the listing agreement, you should sign this. So in this case, you would select yourself as a listing broker, go down here and select your email address here. Well, in this case, it would be this one for me, but it doesn't matter. Select yourself from the pre-tag role and you will sign the listing agreement. The listing agreement is something that the broker or yourself can sign. So no worries on there. But we're not going to sign our document at this time, but that's how you would make it happen. And then we're going to go here to the email subject line. We're just going to do, please DocuSign listing agreement for 123 Main Street. And then the message would be like, please review and sign. Let me know if you have any questions, whatever you want to say to your clients. This is something that your clients will see, so make sure you're happy with what it says. Oh, that looks like a little clown there. So happy face, subject of the email is here, and now we're going to click next. If you needed to save your work, you can save and close, and you can go under envelopes and send it later. So that's definitely an option. And then actions, copy, or just delete if you're not happy with anything that's going on here, or you completely messed up. So hit next. So now you'll see that here's our listing agreement. It's bringing over all the information that we filled in. If you forgot to fill something in or you need to cross something off, there are tools here. You can add more fields if you needed to. You can add drawings, approved or disapproved buttons here or there, like the decline or approved buttons here. Here under the pre-filled tools, you can add things like check marks. So let's say, that the property doesn't come with any appliances for whatever reason. You can cross things off here if you need to. You can add check boxes or text boxes to go over and cover this. Like if this was misspelled, you can just put a text box here, but it needs to be this pre-filled tool at the bottom here to cover up the text in the back. If you're just if you're just adding a text box, you can use this text box here. This text box doesn't cover up what's behind it, if that makes sense. So if you want to cover up what's behind it, if you misspelled street or whatever, you would use the text box that's under pre-filled tools. But going back to the standard fields, if you scroll down here, you'll see that seller 1 has a color and seller 2 has a different color. That is on purpose, so you can tell which seller needs to sign where. If you scroll up here, this color coordinates with all of these fields here. That's why they're yellow. If you go to the drop down, you can go to Catlin, Stark, and hers are blue, which is what seller 2 has been identified as. So if you add any one of these fields, they are specific to that color to that client. So color blue is for seller 2, color yellow is for seller 1. So if you need seller 2 to do something, make sure that you select seller, the correct seller so that the colors coordinate. So if not, you won't be able to get the correct signature or get them to do what it is you need them to do. One more thing that I'll mention real quick. If you add a text field to any of this, specifically one of the colored ones, like the yellow or the blue, and you want both either the seller or the buyer or either seller to fill it out, you're going to select it like this where it's highlighted, and under collaboration, just click recipients can collaborate, which means that they can work on the field together. And this will be covered more in detail in the next class. It'll be like a DocuSign 201 class. We'll go into all of the details of templates as well as all of the DocuSign features from there. I'm going to delete that field because I don't need it. I'm going to delete it. I just highlighted it and hit delete, or you can right click and delete. You can also continue to go through the form here and edit any field that you may have forgotten. But the system will pre-tag everywhere the seller needs to sign as long as you do what we did, which was pre-selected roles. Here is our lead-based paint that we chose to go with this. And of course, you can select these options here if whatever they pertain to, whatever the seller has no report. So you would just select that, right? The seller is going to identify this. So the seller, once you send them this, the seller can then pick which one of these pertains to them. Again, if you want either seller to fill these section out, you're going to have to highlight these, right? Now they're highlighted, and you would have to go under the, make it a required field for them not to miss it, which means they cannot sign it without doing something to that field. And then you can also do the collaborate, which means either one of the parties can either one of the sellers can take care of that task. If you don't do this, then only that one specific one, in this case, Ned Stark, is the only one that can fill in these options. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, just let me know. So this document technically is ready to sign. Of course, I can make any edits that I need to make to it, any changes using the little tool here, the pre-filled tool. But I'm going to go ahead and send this document for signature for today's example. I've done everything. Everything looks great. I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And this will send, and it's going to automatically go ahead and put you under the envelope section. So once they sign, this envelope here that we filled out is going to go from waiting for others to just completed. One thing that I'll mention here, you're not going to get a completed envelope until all parties that have been requested to sign the document. So until seller 1 and seller 2 sign the document, you will not get a copy of that document under documents. So for today's example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign the documents on my phone while we're in class, so that way you guys can see what ends up happening once you send documents for signature to your clients. One thing I'll mention while I'm signing those in the background, if for whatever reason your clients are like, hey, I didn't get the email, I can't find the email, no worries. You can click on the envelope here, and you can simply click, you're going to click over here where it says 2 documents and 2 recipients. And then here is where you would click to resend the document. If you need to correct something, you can, of course, view the documents. I wouldn't recommend editing the documents here. At that point, you can just void the envelope, which is also an option. We're not going to cover that in today's class just because it's the 101, but it can be done. You can just recreate the envelope and resend it and void this one completely. So while we do that, I'm going to go ahead and sign the documents live. So I pulled out my phone, got the email, I clicked on there, And I'm just gonna get the signatures real quick. I'm gonna start. I'm signing for seller one. And I'm gonna sign for seller two as well. So bear with me while I do that on my phone. Okay, now we're good there. So now we got that. Just want to make sure I don't miss any spots for the signature. Finish. So now I've finished. The clients will get an option of downloading the form if they wanted to review it before signature, and they'll also get an option of reviewing the form and creating a free DocuSign account after they sign. They don't have to do that to get a copy of everything. They'll still get an email once all parties have signed that the document can be reviewed. It'll be attached to an email like a PDF. So now I'm signing for seller one, seller two, whichever order. I went to seller two first, not that it matters. We're going to hit start, and I am signing away. And sign. And initialed everything that needs to be initialed. And that's done. So now that I've signed as if I was the seller, the seller will get a copy of the email with the executed contract or paperwork, and you as the agent will also receive an email. Now I'm going to refresh my screen here. Sorry for the boring part of that. So now you can see here that it says please DocuSign. So hopefully that means that I've signed. So it's been completed. Seller one has signed, seller two has signed, we're good. I would have got an email with the attached documents on there anyways as the agent, as well will the sellers. Under documents, I now will have multiple copies of this paperwork. So this is where things start to get a little bit confusing, and I'm going to take some time to explain the difference in documents here. So first of all, you're going to get a certification of signature, which means DocuSign has vetted that paperwork was signed by the email address intended. So this is how that certification is. This certification does seem to confuse people. What I like to do is just archive it so that way it's not a part of all of my paperwork and all of my other stuff that I'm trying to upload. So I just simply select all of the certifications, however many I get. You only get one of these per envelope, which is good. So that's, again, if you select all the documents you need, you'll only get one of these. Click on archive here, and you can archive it. If you needed to retrieve anything that you archived by mistake, just simply under here, under active documents, you can scroll down and go to archive and then unarchive it basically. So now that we have a signed copy of those two documents, we also have the original interactive form from DocuSign here. It is my advice to you guys to just take once you've received the copies of the signed copies of the documents you want to use, go ahead and archive the old interactive ones. If you need them, you can unarchive them, of course. However, the reason I recommend you do this, so I'm going to archive the original ones there, is because now if these documents, for instance, the lead-based paint or specifically the listing agreement need to be edited for whatever reason, let's say you forgot an appliance, or you forgot the price was wrong, or the address was wrong, whatever the edit is, now you can just take this signed copy, make the edits, and the way that you would make the edits is you would select the envelope, select the document, create another envelope, and in that section where you were identifying the fields, you can then scratch things off, and then you preserve all of your other signatures, and all you would have to do is get the seller to initial the section you updated. So if it was the listed price, you would just have them initial next to where you crossed off the price, and let's say it was supposed to be $350, not $300, and that way you don't have to make them sign the entire document because you're just editing that one section. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, so that's my little spiel on there. In our next DocuSign class, I will cover more of the features within the envelope world as well as within DocuSign itself. But for the last 14 minutes that we have here, I'm going to show you how you would upload this executed listing paperwork. Of course, it would be It would have more documents included. I'm going to show you how you would upload it to Command. So keep in mind, DocuSign is where you work with your clients, is where you get signatures, is how you retrieve your paperwork. Command is where you work with the office. Command is where you're going to send your paperwork to the office for signature or for compliance, so that to make sure that you're compliant and to make sure you get paid on time. So that's how it works. DocuSign is where you get your signatures, where you work with your clients. Command is where you work as the agent and where you work with the office. So going back to the opportunity, we have our tabs here under the Documents tab. Now that we have signed paperwork in our room, I can now associate that paperwork with the specific checklist here. So I'm going to go ahead and sort by requirement again, and I'm going to upload my listing agreement. So you have a couple options when it comes to uploading your paperwork. If you have, if it's on your computer because it was manually done or whatever it was, you're going to use My Computer. In this case, we're using DocuSign. So DocuSign is where it's coming from. The folder, it's Room Docs. And now you'll see here that these folders are now allowing me, or these sections are now, drop downs are allowing me to attach paperwork. So under the listing agreement, I can literally select the listing agreement now. So now I've selected the listing agreement, and now my status of my folder goes from nothing to open, which means this has been, a paperwork's been uploaded here, but it has not been submitted. So if I go here, I can review the document that I've uploaded, see that it's been signed by all parties. You can even see my edit there, the cross, red cross that I put on there. But that's how you can see that the document has been uploaded and ready for you to submit to compliance. If you upload the wrong document, or you upload, the listing agreement for another property, no worries, no panics. You can click on the three dots here and you can remove the document. Once you submit to MC, because of the compliance aspect of the system, it's going to store a copy, which means the remove feature will go away and it will only let you update the document. So no worries, it'll just keep a record of the old document. You're just going to click on update and you would upload, the correct listing agreement if that was what happened. So that's how that works. Once you're ready and you've gone through the checklist and uploaded all of the paperwork that pertains to your transaction, in this case, lead-based paint, here's the lead-based paint there, just to show you guys what it looks like. There it is. Now I can go up to my to the command submit to MC. This sends it to me to review for compliance. And now once I click this button, you're going to notice one thing here. Submit. Yes, we're ready. Now it goes from open to submitted. This is how you know that your documents are going to be reviewed by the office and that you're going to have no hangups when it comes to your DA, as long as you've submitted and done your commission tab as well. This tab is a completely different class. I'm not going to cover all that today. However, you have to submit your documents and submit your commission tab to get paid and get a DA on time. Now, going back to the checklist, you can go here. You'll notice that I can only update it. I cannot remove it. That's what I was mentioning before. So that is pretty much all I have for DocuSign 101. Today, we covered how to create an opportunity, how to gather your paperwork, where to find what paperwork is required, as well as how to fetch other paperwork and get it signed. And I hope that you guys found this class enjoyable and that it helps. And if you guys have any questions, of course, you can email me at mctt738@kw.com. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope you guys have a great day. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel that I showed you earlier within the next couple hours. Have a great day, guys.